All right, family. GMOG Sports TV back with another video. If you're new to the channel, Great Men of God Sports TV, I talk about boxing 24/7 from an unbiased perspective. So please like, comment, share, hate, whatever the case may be. I need to make this channel more interactive and with better engagements. So just let me know, hit me up, subscribe, all that good stuff. Anyway, family, fight week is happening of the biggest fight, not only of this year, for the past decade, in my opinion, between Errol "The Truth" Spence versus Terence "Bud" Crawford in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena, July 29th. I'll be in the building. I will be in Vegas. My flight is coming out. I'll be out there by Friday. But yeah, I'll be in the building. I'm super excited, man, and I may even go live. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm stoked, man, with this fight. And it couldn't come at a better time, man. Couldn't come at a better time. But I want to talk about two important aspects of this fight where I think, in my opinion, these fighters need to show to win, right? These fighters need to show these two attributes. There's only two attributes that these fighters need to show to win this fight, right? I'm going to start off with this. And I'm not talking about skill set. I'm not talking about resume. I'm not talking about none of that. These fighters, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, they only need to show two attributes, right? The first attribute is adversity. Very important. Very important. I'm talking about adversity, not only inside the ring, but outside the ring. How do you deal with adversity? How do you overcome adversity? How do you cope with adversity, right? When adversity comes your way, what do you do with it? Right? So those are the things that these fighters need to show. And I'll kind of break it down even further. Let's take a look at Terence Crawford for a second. In his fights, let's talk about adversity that he's overcome in his fights. We saw, Crawford get rocked by Gamboa. He overcame adversity in that fight, and he stopped Gamboa. Now, people can say, oh, well, Gamboa had one leg, this and that. But guess what? Gamboa did a pretty goddamn good job, fighting Crawford. Now, styles make fights. Attributes also make fights too, right? Because Gamboa was a shorter fighter, stockier fighter, and his style was short, stocky, and kind of awkward in terms of being able to land a precise punch. But because Crawford is a precise counter puncher, he needs the timing to do that. And that's going to take some rounds to, what they say, download the data. He needs that timing to do that. But he did. He overcame adversity after getting rocked by Gamboa. The other example is Mean Machine, right? Mean Machine rocked Crawford to an unofficial knockdown, right? Crawford was knocked down and should have been called in that fight, but he was not. He was hurt twice with that shot from Mean Machine, and it wasn't called. But guess what? He overcame that adversity and won the fight against Mean Machine, right? So, just a couple examples like that with Crawford. We've seen how he handled adversity, right? And he overcame that adversity, right? Now, when it comes to a guy like Errol Spence, let's say if Errol Spence threw the same shots that Crawford took from Mean Machine, how is he able to overcome that adversity? Because we see the punch resistance and how Terence Crawford can take a punch or not. The consensus says that Terence Crawford is a little bit chinny compared to Errol Spence. People say that Errol Spence is a lot more durable and can take a punch better than Terence Crawford. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. We've seen it. We've seen it. I mean, I've already gave you examples of what Terence Crawford went through. He got dropped by Mean Machine. It wasn't called. He got rocked by Gamboa, right? And I can say the same thing about Errol Spence. The only thing is that Errol Spence, he got rocked by these guys. Errol Spence got rocked by Ugas, right? And he's been rocked a couple of times before that as well. The difference is with Errol Spence being rocked, right, versus Terence Crawford being rocked. I would say this: Errol Spence, his recovery, right, after getting a punch like that, I'd say is better than Terence Crawford. I think it's better, right? I think it's better. His recovery after taking a hit like from Ugas, right? And another fighter who I can't think of the name, but this is a while ago. He fought an African dude, which I saw his video the other day. Just can't think of his name right now. He got rocked. Where he got rocked to the point where when he got rocked, is like his arms were flailing, and then he kind of recovered after that. He was dazed for a split second. I say about 2 to 3 seconds, and he recovered. You know, when it comes to Crawford, man, it takes a little bit more time for him to recover from shots like that. So when Errol Spence hits you with those shots, let's see how he recovers, and vice versa, right? So adversity is key in this fight. How these guys are going to overcome adversity. We've seen, you know, even outside of the ring, we've seen Errol Spence overcome not 1 but 2 car crashes, right? Life-threatening car crash. We know the car crash we saw, right? And another car crash where he totaled his car. So he overcame 2, and it's still bothering him till this day. He said he's afraid to drive in certain lanes. He has to stay in the middle lane, because if he stays in the left lane or something like that, he's afraid that the car might hit him or something like that. I think that was in the Pivot podcast. He said that. So, you know, he has a lot of factors he has to overcome still. And he's back like he's never left. Right? You know, so I talked about adversity, and I said there's 2 attributes these fighters need to show to win this fight. I already talked about adversity. And then number 2 is adjustments. How are these fighters going to make these adjustments? Right? It's going to come down to the adjustments being made round by round. We know that Terence Crawford is a guy, he is a counter puncher. He's a precise counter puncher. He starts off slow. Historically, he starts off slow and tries to collect the data in order for him to catch you in between those shots and get you up out of there. And here's another sidebar, right? With Crawford, I'm gonna make a comparison when it comes to power. You see, when Terence Crawford gets you out of there, he gets you with shots that you don't see, right? He gets you with shots that you don't see, right? And that's how he gets guys up out of there. As opposed to Errol, he just beats your ass, pause, based off accumulation of punches, right? You know, Sean Porter said it best. He described the power of Crawford and Spence. He said that Crawford has more like a snap. It's like a snap to his punches, versus Errol Spence is more like a thud to his punches, right? Or actually, I'm sorry, it was more like a paddle. He said paddle. It was more like a paddle, and Crawford's more like a whip or a belt. Both, you feel both shots, but which would you rather get hit by least? Right? You rather get hit by least the paddle. The paddle, getting beat by a paddle, and that's what Porter said about Spence's power in comparison to Crawford. Right? And so when it comes to adjustments, ring by ring adjustments, you know, it's going to come down to a guy like Terence Crawford, who collects the data the first few rounds, and his corner as well. You know, his corner is going to be very important, right? So you have guys in his corner like Bomac, and he has multiple guys in his corner. You know, you got Bernie the boxer, who's basically like a hype man. You know what I'm saying? You got Brian Conroy, and you got Esau Dieguez. I believe his name is Dieguez, right? So some of those guys, they do like mid work and stuff like that for Crawford. So you have multiple minds on the side of Crawford versus Derek James, who does basically everything, right? Who does everything. So it's going to come down to all of those things. Who has the better game plan? Who makes the better adjustments, right? And you know, who sticks to that? And just like Errol Spence said, it's going to come down to will. He says it's going to come down to will. Who's going to break each other's will? That will involves, again, adversity and adjustments. I said two things: adversity and adjustments. So yeah, I mean, and that's the elephant in the room that people aren't talking about, family, is the fact that, you know, it's going to come down to those things. Adversity. It's going to come down to how these fighters are going to make adjustments round by round. That's who's going to win the fight. But as I told y'all, I'm leaning towards Errol Spence. I already been told y'all that. So I will make another video to break down from a technical standpoint why Errol Spence is going to win this fight. But nonetheless, like, I'm leaning towards Errol Spence to win this fight, and I think he's going to win by points. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a stoppage on either side. I'm realistic on either side, right? Crawford could catch Spence with a shot he doesn't see, and, you know, Spence could break down Crawford, and his corner could throw in the towel. Those are the scenarios that's playing in my head. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below, family. Until next time, signing out. Peace.